Alright, everybody, for today's industry insight, I got a very interesting topic that I want to go over. I want to discuss what exactly makes a video game bad. Now, I'm sure with that simple question, a lot of you are getting quick to respond below with stuff like a game with bad graphics, or, the gameplay doesn't work, or stuff along those lines. And while it's very easy to critique video games like that, it's a lot harder to, I think, get down to the root cause. Now, when I think about games I would classify as bad, there are three broad categories. The first are the asset flippers. The ones that will just directly clone someone else's game, or will try and make a quick turn and burn on Steam or iOS or stuff like that. And those games, I don't even bother covering, so we can safely ignore those. The second kind are the spectacular failures. These are the games that, usually due to either publisher interference or just going completely overboard, the game fails to basically meet those expectations. Stuff like No Man's Sky, Duke Nukem Forever, Mass Effect Andromeda, and I'm sure there are a few more examples out there. But it's the third category that interests me, and that is when a game doesn't seem to, click right. And this is not something that developers go out to do. As we've said before, most game designers aren't spending 2 to 5 years of their life working on a game with the explicit purpose to screw the consumer out of money. No one's, sitting there twirling their mustache saying, I'm going to make this horrible game and then I'm going to retire to the Cayman Islands for the rest of my life. It doesn't work like that, obviously. But when it comes to game design, as we've talked about many times before, there is a lot that can go into making a game successful. And it's beyond just the core skills of game design, programming, and aesthetics. And typically, when I play video games like this, I kind of see it more like a lack of experience rather than just full on, evil or mischievous intent. Now, over the years, as you know, I have played a lot of video games. I have spent as much time as over 800 hours playing Left 4 Dead, to spending as little as maybe 45 seconds to a minute playing an independent game. And getting things right is one of the hardest things to do when it comes to game design. And that topic alone, we could segue into many other parts for this video and probably do several videos and maybe an hour-long talk on it. But the point is, when it comes to playing a game that's considered bad, like I said, there are a lot of things that can make these games fail that are either within or outside of the studio's knowledge or the developer's knowledge. To give you an example, about 2 weeks ago, I did a first look at the game Past Cure. This was a very ambitious game from a new studio. I think they may have done a Kickstarter for it, which I can actually look up, hopefully really fast. I'm trying to talk and type at the same time. No, it wasn't a Kickstarter, but it was from a relatively new company, and a bunch of friends or a bunch of people wanted to get together and make a game. And, of course, they spent a few years on it, it was released, and the game just kind of dive-bombed. It got pretty low scores all the way around from the major sites, and as well as from reviewers on Steam. And it's one of those cases where it's very easy for people to, mock the developer, say, this sucks, or, these guys are idiots for doing it like that. But in the same breath, when I try to play games like this, I kind of see it more, again, as a lack of knowledge, or lack of information about the subtleties of game design. Something even as simple as making sure that you can turn off vibration in the game menu, or making sure that the camera can stay on the player, or even more complicated aspects such as understanding effective pacing and how to properly build a game around your core gameplay loop. And these, more importantly, are elements that you don't just put them together by the skin of your teeth or throw them together haphazardly and it all works. As we said before, game design is both an art and a craft. And when you're trying to combine entertainment and programming like this, it becomes a lot harder than doing either separately. We've used the examples before of you can have a game that is technically proficient, bug free, works on every platform, but is completely boring and the UI doesn't work right and nobody likes it. Or you can have something very ambitious that you've never seen before, but the damn thing crashes every time you try and load it up. And trying to get into that middle ground, though, is tough. And one of the worst things you can do as a first time game designer is to try and go all in when you haven't really built the skills to understand what makes effective game design. And again, that one question could easily fill 20 or 30 different videos here on the channel. But the point I want to get at is that it can be very hard to figure out why a game works or it doesn't, especially from a developer standpoint. As we said before, it's very easy to enter blinders mode when you're developing a game. As in, this game is perfect. How dare you not like it? I spent the last 5 to 10 years of this game, or 5 to 10 years of my life making it, so it must be the best damn game in the world. But, as we've said many times before, the consumer doesn't care, and they don't know about the work that goes into games. They know about the end result. And if they don't like the end result, it doesn't matter if you spent 6 months or 6 years working on your quote-unquote magnum opus, they're going to hate it and down review it. But I want to throw this back to you folks, especially for any consumers and game designers watching this. When you think about games that you would consider as bad, what is your metric for it? Because I have played many games and I have stopped playing many games that seem to have great elements to them, but it just doesn't work for me. And it may not work for me because I'm not a fan of the genre, or it may not work for me because I'm clashing with the game design. It's like trying to steer a car and somebody decided to put the steering wheel underneath the chair and the pedals are above me. I'm basically fighting the design of the object. Now, with that said, though, I want to turn things to one other topic before we wrap things up, and that is being able to talk about bad games. I was talking about this on our Discord channel, that for the life of me, I cannot get angry when I play a bad video game. You will never see a video of me, yelling about how this game is stupid, the developers are lazy, and blah, blah, blah. And it always goes back to how I review and critique video games. I will find something good to talk about in games that are considered bad, just as I will find bad things to talk about in games that are considered amazing. And it's probably why Metacritic doesn't like me, and why I can sometimes annoy a few developers out there. But the point is that when it comes to examining a video game, it can be very hard to talk professionally about a game that you just don't like. As we've said in earlier videos, it's very easy for anyone to write a review on Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, or Gone Home, or Mario Odyssey, or even something like Undertale or Fortnite. But try writing a professional review for a game like Past Cure, or for a game that you're just not enjoying the gameplay. Like, I just put up a review, I think last week, about Yakuza 6, or actually it could be a few weeks ago by now, where I liked the game, but I also had major problems with it. And in that review, I tried to balance the good with the bad. But again, you will never see me come right out and attack the developers. I think that's a major point and a very important aspect if you want to be considered a professional reviewer or professional critic. That there's a difference between being able to criticize a product and outright criticize the people behind that product. Because again, at the end of the day, nobody wants to make a bad game. That age-old adage about, there's no such thing as bad publicity, well, that doesn't work when it comes to video games. If your game is bad, most likely people are not going to buy it to hate play it. And again, developers don't set out to make a bad game. But there is a lot that can go wrong, and as we said before, the death by 1,000 cuts analogy is real when it comes to game design. And like I said, it can go into multiple topics. But to wrap things up for this quick industry insight, when I think about bad games, I come at it more from a lack of knowledge or foresight rather than malicious intent. And it's very important to be able to put into words why something doesn't work. And this is very key for playtesters. When I've talked to several people who have done playtesting, we've talked before about how somebody saying, this game sucks, it's the worst thing I've ever done, is as useless as someone saying, I love this game, I can't find anything wrong with it, it's perfect 10 out of 10. And being able to explain why things work or why they don't work is an important skill, not just for people who want to look at video games, but also for people who want to design them. Because as we've said, iteration and refinement is key, no matter if you're working on a 5-man independent game or you are running a studio of 50 plus employees trying to build the next big budget AAA game. And if you can't understand what makes your game good or bad, you're just going to be throwing things against the wall and hoping that you somehow come out of it smelling like a rose. But being able to mitigate any potential problems with your game, be it from a design standpoint, a PR standpoint, or even just a management of your people standpoint, is crucial to succeeding in this game industry. And we could certainly talk about this more in other topics, but we're going to wrap things up for today's Industry Insight. So thank you so much for watching. If you enjoy talking about game design, or you like to hang out with people who just can't stop talking about it, be sure to check out Discord link below. But otherwise, check back for daily discussions on game design here, and on Game Wisdom, where we examine the art and science of games. Before we get to the credits, just wanted to give a quick thank you and shout out to the supporters over on patreon.com/gwbicer. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. Check back around 10 Eastern for regular streaming. If you'd like to suggest games for me to cover or topics to talk about, let me know in the comments below. For a collection of my writings as well as weekly podcasts on design, check out game-wisdom.com. To support the Game Wisdom Patreon, you can find us on there on patreon.com/gwbicer. $1 will get you into our private Discord channel where we talk game topics and more. $5 will get you voting privileges for any major event, including the Saturday Night Grab Bag, Patreon-funded goals, and more. Thanks again for watching, and I hope you enjoy more videos here on the Game Wisdom YouTube channel.